We're live, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'm chairing today's panel. Joining me on the panel are Michelle Duncan and Linda Schultz. Our assessor today is Jay Flood, and our administrative personnel is Crystal Harland. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We'll be hearing applications for revisions of the business assessment role in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the
Madam
board's
Chair, I think you froze.
No,
I'm frozen still, no?
no, we can see you. I can see you're moving.
Am I frozen in your boardroom, Crystal?
You're frozen right now, and you're
No.
okay up on the screen, so please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'll just repeat the last. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and
Madam
make its...
Chair, you're frozen again.
Okay, what would you like me to do, Mrs. Harland?
It's got to be just there because you're coming through on mine fine.
Mine as well. Are we frozen as well?
No.
But
Madam Chair?
Yes.
You're
Yes.
coming.
I'm having a hard time seeing and hearing you.
Okay, I can see and hear everybody here just fine.
So can
Would
I?
you like me to swear in the assessor and the applicant?
Please.
Okay. Madam Assessor, would you please stand? Thank you. Would you please state your full name?
Lisa J. Flood.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Rapp, would you please state your full name?
Lyle Rack.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Harland, am I still frozen?
You're fine now.
Okay, all right then. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Rack, I'm just confirming that your appeal today is with respect to the business assessment of value.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will begin with item number 1, file number 24-4977. This is 54 Princess Street. Ms. Flood, when you are ready, you may begin with your evidence, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. File number 24-4977, roll years 2025, address 54 Princess Street, business assessment ID 25466 for Dell's Electric Motor Supply Limited. Total annual rental value is $49,200. Total area of all premises 4,331 square feet. We're using a base ARV of $37,506 with a base ARV per square foot of $8.66. Total occupancy costs of $11,694. The total rental value of $49,200. I have 4 rent comparables. 316 Keewatin Street with a lease start of May 2021. Reported area is 3,000 with a reported rent per square foot of $6.50. 420 Des Mirons, lease start June 2020. Reported area 2,500 square feet. Reported rent per square foot is $10.32. 1094 Narren Avenue. Lease start of September 2021. Reported area 4,025 square feet with a reported rent per square foot of $18. 317 St. Anne's Road, lease start September 2021. Reported area 5,400 with a reported rent per square foot of $13.50. If you go to my page 2, it is a picture of the subject property from Street View. And my page 3 is pictures of my comparable rents. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flood. Mr. Rack, questions for the assessor?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Just a couple. Have you been inside the subject property at all, inspected it?
For this appeal for the realty, I was there in July 2024.
So you're aware of the what it's like, okay? And then are the rent comparables, I maybe should know this, but are they model driven?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Or no, they're the subject, the comparables are reported rents.
Oh, just the reported rents. Okay. And then just when I'm looking at the comparables, because obviously I know it's a business assessment, but what would you say would be similar about those comparables in comparison to the subject property? Because what makes them good comparables?
The first two, the Keewatin and the Des Mirons ones, those are more industrial comparables. Whereas Narren and St. Anne's, they're retail. I tried to give a range to show that our rental rate of $8.66 is within the range. Comparison wise, it's hard to say exactly, potentially, as on the interior, I haven't seen the comparables compared to the subject property.
Right. Yeah, just when I look at the pictures, the 4 comparables look like they have bigger parking lots, you know, maybe not a lot newer, but a lot seem to be a bit better condition. Just again, you know, just subjective from the pictures, but that's why I'm asking the questions, and then the locations, of course. But okay, thank you. No other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Ms. Schultz, questions for the assessor?
No, asked and answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Flood, do you have the ages of these comparables, and what is the age of the subject?
Those I don't have
Okay.
in front of me.
I know you tried to pick retail comparables, but your comparable number 4 is a standalone type building as compared to the subject, which doesn't appear to be.
Yes, for the St. Anne's one, the Goodwill one, I've been to that Goodwill. Quality wise was, I understand with the parking and everything, the best one in comparison to street parking would be the Des Mirons, but I do believe there is some on-site parking. It is difficult to find market net rents in the downtown or exchange area that were comparable to the subject property.
Yeah, I
But
do
for the
appreciate.
St. Anne's one, quality wise was somewhat similar to like
Okay.
interior quality.
And is there parking for Dell's Electric in behind? Because there certainly isn't in front. It's just street parking by your photos.
I'm sure Mr. Rack can confirm. I know there was street parking when we did the inspection. We parked on the street. If there is in the back, I would assume it would be for staff.
Okay, Mr. Rack, I'm sure will tell us about that. Okay, and you've applied the occupancy costs for all the elements to the total square footage, the 4,331,
Right, for the main floor, yes.
just the main floor. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And you said this did go to appeal at the
Yeah, there
at the
was-
Board of Revision? Okay.
Yes,
And
there was
what?
a realty appeal, and that was when I had inspected back in July.
Okay. And just with respect to the rent, did the realty appeal uphold the rent that you're using?
The board did decrease the value, but we did not use the board decreased value.
And okay, is that a practice that the city does not use the decreased value for the business? Or is that?
It won't automatically be changed after a board decreased order. Also, depending on the order, we don't always, we would, for that one, I would say, in my opinion, it was below market to use the rent that was decided at the realty level. For business assessment, we don't always carry through the realty for the business assessment. If it was a decreased order, we take other things into consideration if cost-wise, if it's something that we should appeal to the municipal board. So just because the board order decreased it and we didn't appeal doesn't mean that we always agree to the value. So practice-wise, we won't always use a board decreased value if we're not in agreement with it.
Okay. And you said, in your opinion, the rent was below market value, that the board reduced it to, right?
Yes, for that one, it would be too low for us to.
And
There
what led to that opinion?
Looking at other, if there were other similar properties in the downtown or exchange area, as the rent was quite low after the inspection, the way that the business on the main floor was classified was changed, and that's how we have the $8.66. That was before the appeal, the hearing, but it was to better reflect how the main floor business is.
Okay. And this is a Class D building, would it be?
I don't remember what class it is, but
Okay.
it is zoned as commercial, so we wouldn't have it as, because it's not zoned industrial, the board decreased value would, in my opinion, lean more so towards industrial rents versus a retail rent,
Okay.
which is what
Which-
we were trying
And
to.
is an industrial rent in the exchange district typically lower than a retail rent in the exchange?
For exchange in general, I'm not quite sure, but industrial, depending, they are lower because of the finishes, the quality, the overall size generally is
Okay.
a lot larger than retail, and because of the economies of scale, the rents range.
Okay. And how old is this building?
I don't have the age in front of me, but it is an older, I recall that it is an older building, but I
Okay.
can't say for sure.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Flood. I have no other questions. Mr. Rack, your evidence, please.
Thank you. If you take a look at my brief on page 1, you'll see a picture of the building. And actually, you can see by where that tree is. Well, I'll leave that for something else. Okay, so this is the evidence that I presented for the realty appeal. The building was actually constructed in 1905. It has a variant age of 1908. So with just a 3-year variant age, that means that as far as renovations go, there was very little done to the building. So the building is basically still in 1908 condition. So if you look on the picture here, just above the tree to your right, there's a box on the wall. That is the air conditioning unit. It's just a wall unit, so the building does not have central air. And that was pointed out when the assessor inspected the property for the realty appeal. So if you go down, you'll see the first picture. So the property is basically a flex warehouse. You can see it has gas heater hanging from the ceiling, like an industrial building, and it has concrete floors. And when you enter the building, you actually have to step down into the building. The floor in the building is lower than the sidewalk. And there has been some water leaking from rain through that door. Not a lot, but water does come through there. So in that picture, the main floor, you can see it's concrete floors, and there's no ducting for air conditioning because of the air conditioning unit in the window. So if you go to the page 3, as you see, that's a workshop on the main floor. They repair electric motors. And if you go to the bottom of page 3, you'll see that's a picture of walking upstairs. And you can see it's wood strapping, which it would be commonplace in 1905. And if you go to page 4, you'll see upstairs, that's the condition of the floors. And you'll see that there's actually a hole in the floor in that wood, the planking. So the owner has gone over all that planking with plywood, and that's decades ago. You can see how worn out that plywood is and all stained. If you go to the next picture, you'll see that basically upstairs is used for personal storage. There's minimal light up there, minimal heat. If you go to page 5, you'll see the conditions of the floor where the roof has been leaking for years. It has been patched within the last couple of years. You'll see that the ceiling is all strapped wood, which is typical construction back in the day. If you go to page 6, you'll see there's some buckets sitting on the floor where the roof has been leaking. And you can see that the floor is in very poor condition. In fact, structurally, the plywood is over there because the floors have basically deteriorated to the point where you could poke your feet through them. Go to page 7, you'll see the extensive amount of water penetration by the windows. So the building is in very poor condition. And then you go to page 8, you can see all the water leaking that has come through that ceiling. So it's used, the second floor is used for personal storage. Floors are not structurally sound. Space is barely usable and definitely unleasable. So this basically, the building is built, has got a variant age of I forgot 1909, it's actually 1908. It's a Class D building, and the department is only assessed the main floor, and for realty, they use $10.03 a square foot. If you go down to page 9, you'll see the workup for realty. And for the realty appeal, I used all the parameters except I adjusted the rent. So the page underneath there, page 10, you'll see these are assessor comparables from 2023. And you'll see 666 Ellis. Lease ran from 2019 to 2025. 14-foot ceiling, 6,042 square feet at $390 a square foot. And that is a parking lot, which is fenced. Go down to the next comparables, 435 terrain. The lease runs from 2021 to 2025, 14-foot high ceilings, 4,840 square feet at $4.96 per square foot. And that's a parking, it has a parking lot up front, paved, well, quite a large parking lot. And then if you go on to 125 Adelaide Street, June 2020 to May 2025, 15,764 square feet at $406. And then below you'll see these are from the Johnson report from December 2022. And these are asking rents. So you have 234 to 240 Jarvis. It was built in 1909, similar to the subject. I haven't been inside the building. It could be in better condition. It's got 6,858 square feet at $575. And that's in the area. And so is Adelaide. And then underneath that, you've got 109 Higgins, which is a multi-tenant building was built in 1940. Got 27,860 square feet at $5, and the area is already subdivided into smaller spaces. You could rent as much space as you want in that building, and that's a superior building to the subject. It also has a large parking lot to the left of the end wall. And 92 Higgins is not comparable. It's just for comparison for rent. So you'll see it's got a large paved area in front for customer parking. And it's definitely in better condition and newer than the subject. You can see a picture of the inside. It has an overhead door, concrete floors. It's not wood, it's structural steel. And below that, you'll see there's part of that building has office space, which is a very nice condition. And then you can see the outside and the back has an overhead door. So 92 Higgins was built in 1940, got 4,922 square feet with an asking rent of $7. It's a superior building, a large parking lot, finished office space, central air conditioning, and that would demand a higher rent than the subject. And that building is well worth $2.20 square foot over the subject. And just speaking to the subject property, at the back of the property, it actually has parking for about 5 cars, which is basically used by the employees. So there's no real customer parking back there. So I have the list of the comparables there, and it's got the average of those comparables is $4.73. So just in summary, we've got a 1908 building, varying age. Second floor is in extremely poor condition, unleasable. The structural damage to the second floor, water damage, concrete floors on the main floor. It's got industrial heaters. It's a flex warehouse. And in my opinion, the second floor is more a hindrance than a plus. So the comparables are $4.73 a square foot. B building, so I applied the parameters for realty. Got 4,331 square feet at $475. You add you do the deduction for vacancy, expenses, and shortfall. Cap rate of 705. We get a value of $247,394. So the income approach is 247. And at the time, I also presented 3 comparable sales in the area on Main Street, Jarvis. And I did not present those today, but they supported the basic income approach. So those sales comparables came to an average of 253,000. So I used 250,000 for realty. Go to page 15. You'll see that's the board order for the property. And on page 16, you'll see that the board's conclusion was that the decision is based on the evidence presented by the appellant. So that was my 250,000. You can see that the board order reduced the property to 250,000. So those numbers the board used as evidence and agreed with my numbers. So in order to come up with a value for the business assessment at 250,000 going backwards, that comes out to a rent of $4.80 a square foot. And if you go to page 17, the building has no air conditioning. So based on the realty decision, the BA ARV should be $4.80 a square foot and 4,331 square feet to get 20,789. You add all the operating costs and you get a value of 30,923. And I rounded that to 30,930. And I'd also like to inform the board that I do have a rebuttal brief I would like to get to when it's time.
Okay,
So that's
thank you.
my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rack. Ms. Flood, questions for the applicant?
Just a couple, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rack, in your presentation, in your brief, you mentioned that we're using I'm just trying to find the page number. We're using a $10 and 3 cents per square footage. But just to clarify, are you aware that we're using $8.66?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. And then for the comparables that were used, they are more industrial compared to retail, would you confirm?
The subject property is an industrial property. It was industrial property at the time it was built. Retail is what it's used for, but it is an industrial property. And if you look inside the property and you inspected the property, most of the property is storage for basically electrical supplies. Even though it's used for retail, it's not a retail building. It's a commercial industrial building, which is basically they're selling product out of that. But the actual structure itself is an industrial building.
Would you confirm that the zoning is for commercial and not industrial for the area?
I don't have that information in front of me.
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flood. Ms. Schultz, questions for Mr. Rack?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Just from a square footage standpoint, obviously it would be 2165 on the main, 2165 upstairs to come up with the 4331, or is the upstairs smaller, the second floor?
No, the main floor is 4,331 square feet. The assessment department never assessed the second floor due to its condition for realty.
Okay, thank you. That so it would be additional square foot had they, but they've only assessed the main floor.
Yes,
Okay.
basically because of the second floor is unleasable.
Right. Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Thank you. Mr. Rack, part of this building is used for repair of motors, small motors and things like that, right? Or what is, you talked about there seems to be two different components of this building, kind of a retail piece where they sell product out of it, but they also do other work there.
Correct. They repair industrial motors. small, medium, and large industrial motors. So that's why there's a large part of the building is dedicated for that. And then for storage of the parts required to fix those motors.
Okay, when you say large motors, what kind of large motors?
Electrical motor the size of a 5-gallon pail.
Okay. I'm looking at a 5-gallon pail, so that I get the size then. Okay. What roughly can you 50-50 for the building? Like what is the percent-ish?
Oh, I'd say maybe 25% is retail or less.
Okay. So it's not wholly retail, it's not wholly industrial, it is a mix of the two.
Yes, that's why I kind of called it a flex warehouse, or a flex warehouse, I believe, would be about 20% would be office or retail component, and then the rest would be like a warehouse.
Okay. Okay, and you indicated that does not have central air, just in-window air conditioning?
Yeah, it just has that small window AC unit, because you can see that the heat is supplied through industrial heaters hanging from the ceiling. So there is no ductwork in the building at all that would supply the cold air, and that little window AC unit is just blows air into the, to where you purchase product in the front.
Okay.
And the front,
ahead.
the front that's retail is also the offices in that retail area. So there's desks where secretaries work. So there is no dedicated office space in that building on the main floor.
Okay. I just want to redirect to Ms. Flood. Ms. Flood, you have in your workup have 4,331 square feet subject to air conditioning costs. There doesn't seem to be air conditioning in the building other than just a window box. Would your air conditioning costs apply to a window air conditioner or central air conditioner?
When it was inspected, that I can do a further review on after and see if it is something that we would remove. It. From what I remembered, there was the air conditioning on the main floor, but not on the second. But if it's a window unit, that I don't know off the top of my head right now. I'd have to do.
But your model wouldn't apply an air condition cost to a window air conditioning if it was, assuming it was a window air conditioning, your model wouldn't apply costs for that, right?
I would assume if it's something that can be easily removed, it
Right.
wouldn't necessarily be, but again, I don't say for sure.
Okay. I just wanted clarification on how your model works, so thank you. Mr. Rack, your final number is not divisible by 12, correct? The business assessment's typically divisible by 12.
Okay, must have made an error in the calculation there. Give me 1 second. I'll give you a number then. Sorry. So then that would be 30,960.
960. Okay, thank you. I have no additional questions for you, Mr. Rack, but you indicated you do have rebuttal evidence. So just
Correct.
give us a minute to get that distributed to us and the assessor. I just want to ask, do panel members and the assessor have the rebuttal?
Yes, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Assessor?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right, go ahead then, Mr. Rack.
Okay, thank you. So this rebuttal deals with the assessor's comparables. And you'll see that basically page 1. And I was unaware that she was one of the assessors that inspected the property. But at the time that that she came down and they took pictures, I discussed it with them that there's no central air conditioning. I also informed her by a couple of emails, we had discussed the property before this hearing, and I told her there's no air conditioning and that it was a window unit. And you can see that window unit in her picture. It's all covered up. And window units are not accessible. So the assessor's comparables, the subject property is a Class D building in original condition, built in 1905 with an effective year 1908. And that basically says there's been no upgrades to that building, and it is in original condition. So let's go to first comparables, 316 Keewatin, 3,000 square foot at $650. Now that's only $1.70 more than the subject. So that's located near King Edward. It's not close to the subject. It's a modern flex warehouse. There's parking out front. At rear, there's overhead door. And this is typical that a truck can drive into the building. Vehicles cannot drive into the subject. I estimate those wall heights to be about 20 feet, which is typical for that type of building. It was probably built in the 70s or the 80s. So it could be at least 70 more years newer than the subject. And you can see the exterior is all concrete blocks. So I would say that that building is not comparable to the subject. And if you scroll down, you'll see that the back of the building all has overhead doors and additional parking. Park service trucks or whatever the the business is required that they're using at that location. The second property is 420 Des Murons, Unit 105, 2,500 square feet at 1033. And that's a 1965 renovated building. And you can see some of the tenants in that building. And below you'll see that's a picture from 2010. And then if you go to page 4, you'll see 2023. It was extensively renovated on the exterior. And I would also suggest that would probably means that the interior was renovated at the end. And you can see an overhead shot of that building. And you'll see at the side there's parking, and at the back there's customer parking, which the subject does not have. And if you scroll down a little more, you'll see there's a back shot of the building where there's modern entrances into that complex. It was built in 65. It was extensively renovated in 2023. So the effective age for the amount of renovations could obviously be between 1975 and 1980. 10 years difference in effective age is not uncommon for that type of work to be done. So it's making it around 70 years near the subject property. It's located in St. Boniface, which is a better area and location. And it's very far from the subject. Extensive on-site paved parking on the side and at the rear with rear entrances. So the unit she's talking about is basically D&G Entertainment Services. So they would have office space. It's not an industrial building. There's no overhead doors on it. So it's basically all office space or retail. So this would be renovated retail and office space, and that's not comparable. Now, if you go to number 3, 1094 Nairn Avenue, Unit D, I don't know which Unit D is, but that's 4,025 square feet at $18. Now that in itself, $18, $10 more than subject property. Obviously, red flags would fly everywhere saying, obviously, for that amount of money, difference in rent, it can't be comparable. And I don't know why the assessor even assumed that would be comparable. So you can see it's actually a strip mall on Nairn Avenue. It's got, it's obviously in a better location. It's got signage. So it's got high visibility on there. All those units are all retail units, not industrial units, but nice high-end retail units. And that building is probably, could be 60 to 70 years newer than the subject property. And you can see below there's a picture. There are some overhead doors, and you can actually drive a semi up and basically unload. So it's a strip mall, which is not comparable to the subject. You can see it's got extensive parking out front. It's got parking in the rear. All units are retail. Interior spaces would be far nicer than the subject property. It would have air conditioning. So that property is definitely not comparable. So now you go to number 4, 317 St. Anne's at 1350, and you can see Ash Management basically handles that property. Again, it's a strip mall. And the unit at the end is what the assessor is using as a comparable. And you can see it's got parking out front, would have central air conditioning. It would be all finished space inside. And basically, you can see all the windows in the front. So that's nothing like the subject property. And being on St. Anne's, it's far from the subject property. It's not even close to the subject property. You've seen in my brief, I did find places downtown close to the subject property as comparables, and I'm sure with the extensive amount of properties that would be in their system, that the assessor could have found properties downtown. I mean, she has far, better access to all the different properties that would be rented downtown than I would. So this property is definitely not comparable to the subject. So I'd say all her comparables are not comparable to the subject. They're far superior, better locations, and three of them are in strip malls and one's a multi-tenant unit. That's my presentation for the rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rack. Ms. Assessor, questions for the applicant on the rebuttal evidence?
No questions for the rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, do you have any questions on the rebuttal evidence?
No questions, thank you.
And Ms. Duncan?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions either. Ms. Flood, do you have rebuttal evidence?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. All right. Ms. Flood, would you care for summation on this property?
Just a quick one, thank you. In summary, the comparables, they are not entirely the same as the subject property. Again, try to give a range. The ones that are superior, that is why they do have a higher rent than what we are assessing it at. Again, after the inspection and before the hearing for the realty, the business assessment was revised to better reflect the main floor of the business and how we had it classified, which is where the newer rent of the $8.66 is coming from. But again, in regards to the comparables, it was just giving a range, and some of them are of higher quality, so they would command a higher rent than the subject property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flood. Mr. Rack, summation?
No, thank you.
Okay, well then that will conclude item number 1. So thank you, Mr. Rack. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you all, and basically have a great summer.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. Ms. Harlan, do we have an applicant yet for item number 2?
We do.
We do?
I'll let him in.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. How are you? You are muted, sir.
Yes, it's just suggested that it said, please unmute. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, well, good morning.
Good morning.
Before we begin, we need to have your testimony affirmed. So Ms. Harland, please.
Yes. Mr. Applicant, would you please state your full name?
Mitchell Paul Martin Regal.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Regal, I'm not sure if you're familiar with our process. Were you able to follow along for the previous property?
No, I was not. I was not on board until just moments ago.
Okay, well, I'll just give you a quick explanation. First, we will hear from the assessor on her evidence. You will have an opportunity to ask questions about what the assessor presented. And then the panel members will also have an opportunity to ask questions. When we're done with that, you can present your evidence. Now, I understand you don't have a written presentation, correct? You'll just talk to us about your position?
Correct. I think it's straightforward. I don't think
Okay.
it's a complicated matter whatsoever.
Okay. Okay, so first we'll start with the assessor. Ms. Assessor, we are dealing with file number 24-4550. This is 516 Portage Avenue. When you are ready, you may begin with your evidence, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. File number 24-4550, roll year 2025, address 516 Portage Avenue, business assessment ID 31282, business name Stella's Bridal and Evening Collections. We have the total annual rental value of $75,720. Total area of all premises is 4,300 square feet. We have it split up into two premises. The main floor premise is 3,500 square feet. The base ARV of 55,440 with the base ARV per square foot of $15.84, plus total occupancy costs of $9,450 for an annual rental value of $64,920. For the little mezzanine space, 800 square feet. We have a base ARV of 8,656, base ARV per square of $10.82, plus total occupancy costs of $2,160 for an annual rental value of $10,800 for the total of $75,720. I do have a recommendation. I did offer this to the owner, but I can go over again as he declined the offer. We changed the main floor rental rate from $15.84 to $14.40, still at the 3,500 square feet. The occupancy costs remain the same at $9,450 for an ARV of $59,880. For the mezzanine space, it was 800 square feet with a rate of $10.82, changing that to $7.37, remaining the 800 square feet. Occupancy costs remain the same at $2,160 for a total of $8,040 for a new revised annual rental value of $67,920. And then back to my page one, I have my four comparables. It's 165 Osborne with a lease start of July 2021, reported area of 2,065 for reported rent of $19. 166 Osborne Unit 1, January 2020 lease start with a reported area of 4,268 for $18 per square foot. 628 St. Anne's Unit E, lease start of February 2020, reported area of 2,163 for reported $19 rent. 437 Stradbrook Unit 3, May 2020 lease start, reported area 3,040 for reported rent of $16. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flood. Before we move to the questions, can you just please repeat the dollars per square foot in your recommendations and your total ARV for each of the pieces?
So for the recommendation, the main floor at 3,500, we're doing $14.40.
Okay,
And our occupancy costs remain at 9,450. For the 800 square foot, the new revised is $7.37 a square foot. Again, occupancy costs remain the same at 2,160. The main floor, that ARB is 59,880. The mezzanine is 8,040, and the new revised 67,920.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Regal, do you have questions for the assessor? Or first of all, I
No.
just need to confirm, do you accept the assessor's recommendation, which would be a reduction to $67,920?
Oh, that's your first question?
Do you,
Well,
do you accept that recommendation?
I believe that it's just too high an amount to be able to
Okay.
charge a small
Okay.
business on portage. It's very difficult to make ends meet. So that's my
Okay.
perspective. But
All right,
you know,
then.
obviously you're all much
then
more
we'll just-
well-versed at this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
okay. We
Yeah.
will move then. Do you have questions for the assessor on what she has presented?
I think the only thing I would ask is you did have comparables, and that was interesting to know. My perspective would be that my only question would be, is any account taken, or is it taken into account things like parking or location? I mean, customers are sometimes afraid to come down in that area to shop. There's not a lot of walk by business, if you will, foot traffic. It's just very difficult business to continue. If you look at the Bay, they've got much deeper pockets than I do. And I mean, they're going under. It's a retail market is very difficult, and it's very difficult to post a profit on any given year. I've always felt that. I just felt that this year maybe I would.
We're getting into
ask
your
for-
evolution a little bit.
Yeah,
So
sorry. I
do
apologize.
you have a question that you'd like to ask the assessor?
I guess just that is a consideration taken to the location, and does that come into play at all? Because I believe she mentions some places like Osborne, I think she was saying.
Yes, so for both Osborne locations, I don't believe that they do have the onsite. It would be street or residential parking. St. Anne's would have parking, and the Stradbrook does have a parking lot. It is smaller, but yes, they are taken into consideration. Again, the comparables are giving a range. I didn't include downtown or closer to the subject, as again, downtown, it's hard to not get any that are owner occupied or that are net rents.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan, questions for the assessor?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Schultz?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Flood, are your rent comparables, are they all retail spaces?
Yes,
Okay. All right. And you indicated you're having a hard time finding things downtown. Is this Stradbrook property? Where is that in relation to the downtown?
near Osborne,
Near Osborne.
from what I
So-
remember, yes,
So you have 3 in sort of that Osborne Village area, right?
yes,
And 1 on St. Anne's Road.
yes.
Okay. Okay. I think we'll hear from Mr. Regal now. Thank you. Mr. Regal, go ahead.
So, just in terms of evidence, is that what you're requesting now?
Yes, please.
Okay. I guess just that is it. There aren't any like actual downtown core locations that are being compared. That would be first and foremost. The other locations that were being compared to Osborne Village is known to have a lot of foot traffic, There's a lot of people who live there, many who reside right in that area. So there's a lot of business that you'll find during the day, evenings, weekends, where that's not the case with our location, which is directly across from the University of Winnipeg on Portage Avenue. It's a high crime area. We're constantly replacing windows as we have to lock our doors. We can no longer leave doors open because people steal shoes. We have to have a doorbell system, so it's a dangerous area. There's a lot of crime. We're struggling with people even wanting to go down. There are many people who will not visit our store because they feel that it is too dangerous to do so. And as I said, we've so many times had, in fact, it's ironic, but it's hilarious. So we put doorbells in. Our doorbells have been stolen about 20 times. And our garbage and recycling have been stolen probably 40 times. We get a new one and we pay for that, and it's ridiculous. People steal everything. They put bricks through our windows. It's a very difficult area in which to do business. And we're doing our very best to make sure that our property is well maintained, well kept, that we give a good visual. We just put a new facade on our store. We're doing everything we can to attract business, but we are dealing with a downtown area that just makes it very difficult to conduct business.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Regal. Ms. Assessor, questions for the applicant?
Just one, maybe, thank you. You had mentioned about the other comparables having, the areas having more foot traffic. Portage, I would say, could have a decent amount of foot traffic, especially being across from the university. For the business, because it's a bridal dress shop, would you say that maybe prior to, not quite recently, but before, would you get a lot of foot traffic, or was it mostly based on appointments of people coming in?
Appointments is a more recent element to the business. Appointments came into place during COVID. So appointments are taken now where they never were in the past. That wasn't the norm. So in answer to your question, there was more foot traffic in the past. And I think I've been owner of the business for about 14 years. And there definitely have been changes in that area and to the number of people who will come by on foot and just walk in.
Thank you. I have just one other one. You don't have any comparables in the downtown area near you?
Are you speaking to me? Sorry.
Yes, sorry.
No, I don't. I haven't collected any information like that about comparable businesses. I do know that other bridal shops, there was a time, and I don't know if you're lifetime Winnipeggers or I don't know anything about any of you, but you all seem like lovely people. But there was a time when the bridal industry was focused downtown near the bay. There were a lot of downtown shops, and one by one, they're going. We're one of the last vestiges of any kind of bridal shop that is in that area. And of course, we know of all the problems with Portage Place. I think there's only Helene's Bridal that's nearby. So again, it's becoming increasingly difficult, and it seems to me that any businesses that are having any success that are in my type of business, which is the bridal retail, anyone that's having success is moving away from the downtown. And I'm just trying to prevent that from happening. I'm just trying to continue to build a really good property there and to stay there, but it is becoming increasingly difficult to do so.
Right. Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flood. Ms. Schultz, questions for the applicant?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Just wondering, have you considered what you would think would be a reasonable market rent then?
I have not. I'm not an expert. All I know is that what we charge the business, and I know that we're not. I should mention that the entire time I've owned the business, together with my wife, that we have not taken a single penny of profit. Part of the reason we haven't is because we can't. We never have had a profit in all that time. So this is a business we're essentially doing as a hobby. That we are taking care of and doing the very best we can. So no, I don't have that. I know that all we can afford is what I've already provided with my to the board. That's it. That's all we can afford, and that's all my accountant believes so as well. So that's it. So there is, all I'm saying, and the reason I'm even with you today, and I thank you for your time, I do appreciate it, is that to me, there's a large discrepancy between what the city believes rent should be charged and what we're actually able to charge. And that's really the basis of my argument. That's it.
So you have provided some numbers in your evidence,
Yes.
Madam Chair? I don't have any numbers.
No, I don't either.
Of what we're charging?
Yeah.
We have nothing.
I did provide that. I believe it's 20. I believe the rent we're charging monthly is, I'd have to look at my data. It's about $2,300. And I believe the recommended is about double that.
Ms. Harland, has there been evidence submitted by?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, we don't seem to have any evidence submitted by you, Mr. Regal. Did you send it to the assessor, or who did you send it to?
I'm sorry, I didn't send it to anyone.
Oh, okay.
That's an error. What I did, that was discussed verbally.
With who?
And I'm sorry about the name, the young woman who was presenting information on my behalf. I believe that's who I provided the information to. I could look it up if you wish.
Yes, please.
Okay. That would have been Jay Flood.
Oh, this is our assessor right
Flood.
here.
Flood, sorry. I apologize. I believe. Flood? I don't know.
Flood. Yeah,
Okay.
this is our assessor who's right in the room with us right now.
Yeah.
Ms. Flood, do you have any record of this?
It's 2625, by the way. Sorry.
Ms. Flood?
Yes, we did have discussions prior to the hearing.
Yes.
That's when I had made my recommendation and the applicant had declined. There was mention about what was charged. I don't have that in front of me, but with our assessed values, we're not always able to match what the rent is paid for the annual rental value, as sometimes it is below what we feel is below market value. So it wouldn't be a value that we could realistically change it to. But yes, but the value, what the number that he said rent wise, I don't have that in front of me.
He's saying it is 22,625 a month.
Yes, and I emailed that on March 18th.
Is that a net rent, Mr. Regal, or is that a gross rent, or what is that?
That's just the gross rent. That's multiplied by 12, and that's what's charged, $31,500 annually.
So that's a gross rent. That would include all sorts of other things in there, not just a Ms. Flood, can you give an estimation of what the net rent would be if it's $26.25 a month?
I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure what all of the expenses that they would have for it in front of me.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's part of process or not, but if he does have an email that he has with this information, is that something he could send to us now, or based on timelines? Is that?
It would be considered late evidence, and we would have to make a decision as a panel in camera to decide if we would accept that. Is that something you'd like to see, Ms. Duncan?
I think so, if we could chat about it in camera.
or Mr. Regal is giving it to us verbally now. Mr. Regal, can you just read out your email?
Certainly. Well, there's an email chain, but I'll just read that particular one. Hello, Jay. From my perspective, 67,920 annually or 5,660 monthly is an unrealistic annual rent value. If the operating company were required to pay this much rent, it would be compelled to cease the operation of the business. It is challenging for our small business to survive currently paying 31,500 annually or 2,625 monthly.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we need to see the email if that's what
That's
it
all.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
So, Mr. Regal, then you are a renter of this space, correct?
Yes,
And your rent is 22,625 currently,
correct. Yes,
and that includes all occupancy costs.
yes.
Okay. Okay. I don't know that I have any other questions. Ms. Flood, rebuttal evidence, or not rebuttal, but sorry, summation?
No summation, no summation.
Okay. Mr. Regal, would you like to make a summary statement?
Certainly. I could just say on the behalf of Stella's Bridal, I understand that, by the way, this is interesting to me. It's very fascinating. You have a very interesting job, all of you. All I'm doing is presenting just from the heart. Is it what we're paying and what we're actually asked to pay? I feel is unrealistic. I would just like to see something that's more in line what would be acceptable for the area in which we are located. That's it. So, and obviously, I'm going to accept whatever decision you render, and I just appreciate the opportunity to even present this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Regal. Thank you for that. Okay. That concludes item number 2. And we've now heard all items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned. So thank you, Mr. Regal, and thank you, Ms. Flood, for your evidence today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go take us offline, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Harland.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. You too, Jay. Bye.
Bye-bye.